Chapter 2171. The violent attacks from the beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others were all blocked by that person. The latter's figure kept retreating, but the berserk attacks did not send it flying. What? Seeing this scene, the pupils of Guguju and the others shrank fiercely. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. "Ah! Hurry, hurry, hurry! We finally made it." Little Pig stood on top of the great young saint's corpse puppet and sighed with emotion. "We finally made it. Oh my God. It's 4 little hooves, yo. They're almost bald from running. Beat them up." Little Pig lifted his short and fat front hooves and pointed at Guguju and the others. After receiving Little Pig's order, the great young saint corpse puppet instantly rushed toward Guguju and the others. Its strength had already reached the Holy Venerable Realm. Although it had suffered a lot of injuries from the attacks of Guguju and the others, it was still a Holy Venerable. But it was a corpse puppet. It was not afraid of pain or injuries. Unless its core was completely destroyed, it would not be able to exert its strength even if its limbs were broken. At this moment, it suddenly rushed toward Guguju and the others, turning the tables on Suyu and the others. After all, although Guguju and the others had the advantage in numbers, they were all powerful. But the great young saint corpse puppet alone was enough to restrain them all. In addition, Suyu and the others attacked and harassed them. In an instant, Guguju and the others felt as if they had fallen into a swamp and could not move a single step. Bastard! Seeing their attacks being blocked by the great young saint corpse puppet again and again, the latter was not afraid of pain or injuries, and its strength did not show any signs of weakening. Guguju and the others were furious. The beast-taming King Valley Master's heart was filled with rage. He recognized the great young saint corpse puppet. Wasn't it the Yin corpse that had been guarding Luo Qingtong in the cave in Shattered Star Valley? Because of its existence, Guguju and the others' attacks were blocked several times. Otherwise, even if Luo Qingtong could escape from them, she would have to pay a price. Previously, they did not see it clearly, but later on, from its injuries, they realized it was a Yin corpse. When they thought of how Luo Qingtong could control Yin corpses, their hearts trembled for a long time. Now, not only did the Yin corpse not die, but its strength also reached the Holy Venerable Realm. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, had a great opportunity after the cave collapse. That must be it. Then, did that mean that the weak woman beside her didn't die either? Thinking up to this point, the beast-taming King Valley Master finally knew where their contracted beasts went. It must be the girl who had inherited the beast mark and summoned them away. The other party's beast mark was of a higher level than theirs, and her beast-taming technique was stronger than theirs. Naturally, she could easily summon their contracted beasts away. Damn it! Why did that bitch Luo Qingtong have so many trump cards by her side? Thinking of this, Guguju's heart was about to explode. He looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. He saw that the girl's strength had already reached the Holy Venerable Realm, and the blood-red pattern on the light ball beside her had already spread more than half. If this continued, she would succeed. No! He must not let her succeed. Chapter 2172. He grabbed an elder of the beast-taming King Valley and stuffed something into the elder's mouth before he could react. The elder of the beast-taming King Valley was forced to swallow the food in his mouth before he knew what was going on. Valley Master. He looked at the beast-tamer King Guguju and his expression changed. Valley Master. You. What did you feed me? Ah. As soon as the words left his mouth, his expression became incomparably ferocious and pained. Pft, pft, pft. A series of growling sounds came from his body. Then, countless tentacle-like things sprouted from the elder's body. Rows of spikes protruded from his back. Ah, roar! His voice was sharp and miserable. Then, it suddenly turned into a roar like that of a wild beast. This elder of the beast-taming King Valley had mutated. It's the immortal Jade Bone. It's the immortal Jade Bone. The other higher-ups of the beast-taming King Valley turned pale when they saw the change in the elder's body. They were all too familiar with his appearance. Didn't those demonic beasts that had swallowed the immortal Jade Bones become like this, neither human nor ghost? Valley Master. They looked at the beast-tamer King Guguju in shock. Even Elder Dark and the others turned to look at the beast-taming King Valley Master. Was he crazy? Why would he attack his own people at this time? However, the beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master's words caused their expressions to turn serious. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, is about to complete her contract breakthrough. If we don't stop her, we might all die here. Are you willing to let a portion of us die here, or are you willing to let all of us die here? As he spoke, he tossed the beast-taming King Valley Elder towards Su Yu and the others. Seeing his actions, Elder Dark and the others instantly understood what he was thinking. It turned out that Guguju wanted to use a portion of them to stop Su Yu and the rest, or rather, to stop the corpse puppet from Great Yong. After mutating, the beast-tamer Valley Elder went berserk and began to wreak havoc in the middle of Su Yu and the rest. He directly pounced towards the corpse puppet that posed the greatest threat to him. Eldarin and the rest were speechless. On the other hand, the expressions of the weakest elders in the beast-taming King Valley changed drastically. This was because the few of them were clearly the best candidates to be sacrificed. Valley Master. Eldarin, don't. Ah. The weakest elders of the beast-taming King Valley didn't even have the chance to escape before they were captured by the Valley Master. After feeding them a large amount of immortal jade bones, they were thrown to Su Yu and the others. After being fed with the immortal jade bones, the mutated elders had lost all rationality and were only acting on instinct. Their strength had increased greatly, almost breaking through to the venerable realm. They all rushed towards Su Yu and the rest. This was because their instinct was to attack everyone in the vicinity. Among them, the corpse puppet that posed the greatest threat was the Great Yong Saint. Without any hesitation, they charged towards the Great Yong Saint corpse puppet. Roar! Chapter 2173. Beast-tamer King Guguju and the others gave a sinister smile when they saw this. They looked in Luo Qingtong's direction and sneered, "Slut, let's see what method you have to stop us now." The Yin corpse was already pinned down by them. In this kind of situation, Su Yu's group and the people around her had no way of stopping them. Luo Qingtong, that slut, was dead for sure. Without any hesitation, Beast-tamer King Guguju and the Dark Elders group leaped forward and rushed towards Luo Qingtong's direction. On the way, Su Yu's group tried their best to stop them, but the difference in strength was too big. They were all sent flying by the attack. Pang! Beast-tamer King Guguju stomped Su Yu to the ground. Looking at the other party's unyielding, stubborn, and aloof gaze, he laughed coldly. "You really are Luo Qingtong's good dog." His voice was ice-cold. "Originally, I wanted to kill all of you so that Luo Qingtong, that be *TCH, would be heartbroken when she wakes up. But now, I've changed my mind." He sneered as he looked at Su Yu's unyielding gaze and said, "Since you're so loyal to that slut Luo Qingtong, I'll let you see with your own eyes how that slut will die without a burial ground in our hands. At that time, I'll watch you die with hatred and bitterness." Beast-tamer King Guguju laughed loudly as he said this. These ant-like people, for that slut Luo Qingtong, actually dared to challenge their dignity. Beast-tamer King Guguju was a first-class master of the Great Mason Forest and a peak Saint Venerable expert. In the hidden world, he could call the wind and summon the rain, arrogant and domineering. For people like Su Yu and the others, he was usually too lazy to even look at them. But just now, this group of ant-like people, relying on the various trump cards and benefits that Luo Qingtong gave them. They made him suffer one loss after another. In the end, they even had to throw away their own sex elders to open a path for them to break through their defensive line. To Beast Tamer King Guguju, this was a great shame and humiliation for him. He actually suffered such a big loss at the hands of these people who were like ants that he could easily trample to death. Beast Tamer King Guguju's face became distorted as he thought about it. Letting these people die like this was too easy for them. Didn't they want to protect Luo Qingtong? Then let them see how that slut Luo Qingtong would die at their hands. How did the treasure that she wanted end up in his hands? Beast Tamer King Guguju's face was extremely cold as he thought about it. He lifted his leg and kicked Suyu to one side. When he spoke, he had already rushed towards him without caring about anything else. The aura in his body was frantically mobilized, and he was about to explode. However, since Beast Tamer King Guguju wanted to let them watch Luo Qingtong suffer, how could he let them die so easily? He had already prepared for this move of theirs. Suyu had just mobilized the aura in his body when he felt a sharp pain in his dantian. When Beast Tamer King Guguju made his move, he had already mixed a wisp of his aura into his attack and blasted it into the bodies of the heavenly diabolism and the aura in their dantian. Chapter 2174. Humph, you want to blow yourself up? Beast Tamer King Guguju sneered. Leading the Dark Elder and the others, he strode past Suyu and the others, who were lying on the ground, unable to move. You guys just stay here and watch how Luo Qingtong dies. When Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others arrived, only little Overlord Yuan, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others were left by Luo Qingtong's side. This group of young men and women, who met Luo Qingtong in the Tianyu Empire, followed behind Luo Qingtong and witnessed the splendor and prosperity of this world that originally did not belong to them. They also witnessed the great changes of the four great sacred dynasties of the eastern region. They rose from humble beginnings and met Luo Qingtong as trash. Their lives, which should have been incomparably miserable, had undergone earth-shaking changes because of Luo Qingtong's existence. This group of people knew that they were lucky. They also knew that without this luck, they would not be qualified to follow Luo Qingtong at all. The girl protected them as they grew up. She said that if they could not keep up, she would not wait for them. But boss, you gave us so many opportunities and resources, how could we not keep up? People said that evil Dr. Ghost I was unrestrained and arrogant, cold and ruthless, and his methods were ruthless. But what they saw was the cold-hearted and ruthless, if you don't leave, I won't abandon you. It was the arrogant and unrestrained, no one is allowed to touch my people. It was the ruthless, my benefactors will flourish for 3 generations, my enemies will be returned 1,000 times over. It was the deep affection that gave them a sense of belonging and security after they called her boss. In this world, perhaps there were many people who came because of their achievements as geniuses and experts. But when they were weak and helpless, there was only one Luo Qingtong, who reached out her slender hand to them, pulled them out of the abyss, and helped them become dragons. Get ready. Little Overlord Yuan said calmly. He took the lead and stood in front of Su Xiaoxiao. The others didn't say a word. They all stood by his side, surrounding Su Xiaoxiao in the middle. With their strength, they had no chance of winning against Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. They did not step forward to fight to the death with Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. Instead, it was to cover Su Xiaoxiao when she released the bottle of liquid medicine at a close distance. Su Xiaoxiao's combat ability as a pharmacist was getting stronger and stronger. Her ability to concoct medicinal liquids in battle was also getting better and better. Even she didn't know how much power this bottle of liquid concocted from the mythological beast flowing light and the spiritual chi light pillars could exert. Could they kill the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others? But, it was better than them trying to stop the enemy. Luo Qingtong was about to succeed. Even if they died, they had to hold on a little longer for Luo Qingtong. Tisk, overestimating yourselves. Seeing their actions, the hearts of beast tamer King Guguju and the others were filled with coldness and disdain. What did the people around Luo Qingtong think they were? It was true that any random cat or dog wanted to find some sense of existence on them. Did they really think that Luo Qingtong was a god? Forget about Su Yu and the others from before. With the abilities of a beast tamer and the cooperation of the demonic beasts around them, they could at least exchange a few blows with them. But what did the group of young men and women in front of them have? Chapter 2175. Beast tamer King Guguju and the others looked gloomy, feeling like they were being looked down upon and humiliated. The people around the bitch Luo Qingtong were really as arrogant and condescending as she was. However, arrogance without strength was even worse than stupidity. Beast tamer King Guguju and the others sneered and rushed toward little tyrant Yuan and the others. Let's just torture and kill this group of people. Anyway, Su Yu and the others have already come to make Luo Qingtong suffer. Thinking so, they looked at little tyrant Yuan and the others with unspeakable ruthlessness. At this moment, Little Pig had just rushed out of the encirclement of the great Yong Saint corpse puppet by the group of mutated beast tamer King Valley elders. Seeing this scene, she was so scared that her two little ears instantly stood up. Oh my god! The people of beast tamer King Valley were so close to killing Luo Qingtong. No, this can't go on like this. He had to hurry to Luo Qingtong's side. Little Pig couldn't change back to his original form alone. He still needed Luo Qingtong's blood and the contract mark to unseal. Thinking of this, he hurriedly rushed toward Luo Qingtong like a bolt of lightning. At this moment, little tyrant Yuan and the others also faced off against beast tamer King Guguju and the others. Seeing that beast tamer King Guguju and the others had already rushed in front of them, little tyrant Yuan's petrification soul seal was activated to the extreme. His skin instantly became as hard as granite. Under his activation, the skin all over his body even made cracking sounds. That was little tyrant Yuan's petrification soul seal being activated to the extreme, almost tearing his skin apart. Behind little tyrant Yuan and the others, Ling Tianhan, Sima Ju, and the others were all ready. Boom! The moment beast tamer King Guguju and the others rushed in front of them, Su Xiaoxiao released the medicinal liquid in her hand. The medicinal liquid needed 1 or 2 breaths of time to activate. And this was the reason why little Overlord Yuan and the others had prepared. Bastard! Beast tamer King Guguju and the others felt a dangerous aura the moment Su Xiaoxiao waved her hand. Their faces were filled with shock and anger. They didn't expect that Su Xiaoxiao, who looked delicate and weak, and whose strength was even the weakest among Yuan little Overlord and the others, could actually make them feel a sense of danger from the aura emanating from her hands. What was that? Everyone was shocked. Almost without thinking, they aimed all their attacks at Su Xiaoxiao. However, the latter was protected behind little Overlord Yuan and the others. When beast tamer King Guguju and the others attacked, Yuan little Overlord took the lead to meet them. Pang pang pang. The skin all over his body exploded into pieces of blood clots. The skin that was as hard as granite all shattered in an instant, revealing his flesh and bones. Yuan little Overlord cried out in pain, but his feet on the ground were like 2 iron pliers, fiercely clamping the ground. He didn't retreat a single step. Behind him, Sima Ju, Ling Tianhan, and the others followed behind him and released their own attacks, clashing with the attacks of the beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master and the others. Pang pang pang. When their attacks collided with the attacks of beast-tamer King Guguju and the others, they couldn't match it all and shattered inch by inch. But it bought Su Xiaoxiao the most precious time. Boom! As Yuan little Overlord and Ling Tianhan were bombarded to the point of vomiting blood and kneeling on the ground, their bodies exploded into bloody figures. Chapter 2176. Ah! The medicinal liquid's aura wafted out. In an instant, the beast-taming King Valley members who had rushed past little Overlord Yuan and the others to kill Su Xiaoxiao let out miserable cries. They screamed miserably, and with a bang, they collapsed in front of Su Xiaoxiao and the others, turning into skeletons. That was the divine beast flowing light's power. Su Xiaoxiao had fused it with the aura of the spiritual qi and the medicinal herbs in her hands to refine this bottle of medicinal liquid. Even Saint Venerables would be corroded by the medicinal liquid's aura. Once it entered their bodies, they would never be able to escape. And Su Xiaoxiao and the others were also infected by the medicinal liquid's aura. Pfft! Su Xiaoxiao spat out a mouthful of blood. She had already concocted the corresponding antidote for herself, little Overlord Yuan, and the others. But just as she had guessed before, the medicinal liquid's aura was too strong, and it had already surpassed her control. The antidote she concocted could not dissolve the divine beast flowing light's power, but could only slow it down. Watching their palms and feet slowly turn into bones, Su Xiaoxiao and the others strangely did not feel any sadness in their hearts. They had finally protected Luo Qingtong. Boss, did you see that? I really became your personal combat pharmacist, I did it. Su Xiaoxiao looked in Luo Qingtong's direction with tears in her eyes. She was sad and happy at the same time. All her strength in this life came after she met Luo Qingtong. The girl taught her self-confidence and self-improvement. She taught her how to use her talent. How did she go from being a useless pharmacist who was disliked by everyone to becoming a pharmacist genius? It was a pity that Luo Qingtong could not see her strongest moment in her life. Su Xiaoxiao's face was both crying and laughing. At this moment, an incomparably cold voice rang out from a distance in front of them. Bitch! The beast-tamer King Guguju was standing not far away. In each of his hands was an elder of the beast-taming King's Valley, and he was hiding himself behind the group of elders. When Su Xiaoxiao had waved her hand, because he had suffered too much in the hands of Luo Qingtong, he didn't charge forward with the rest of the beast-taming King's Valley. Instead, he grabbed the two beast-taming King's Valley members and retreated. Under such circumstances, he managed to survive in the medicinal liquid that Su Xiaoxiao had just created. Furthermore, he was completely unharmed. Bastard! The veins on Guguju's forehead bulged. He looked at the dead bodies of Eldarin and the others, and his face was twisted with malevolence. These people around Luo Qingtong were really hard to deal with. Even among these weak young men and women, there was a hidden genius in alchemy like Su Xiaoxiao. A medicinal liquid defeated all the experts of the beast-taming King's Valley. If word got out, others would think that this was a fantasy. But now, all of this was over. The beast-tamer King Guguju's face was dark and ruthless. He threw away the corpses of the two beast-taming King's Valley elders in his hands and rushed towards Luo Qingtong behind Su Xiaoxiao and the others like a gust of wind. As for Su Xiaoxiao and the others who were slowly turning into white bones, their limbs unable to move, they could die miserably like this. The beast-tamer King Guguju didn't even look at them. Chapter 2177. He dashed toward Luo Qingtong, who was inside the light pillar. At the same time, Little Pig had also reached Luo Qingtong's side. Oh my god! Hurry up! Seeing beast-tamer King Guguju dashing toward them and Luo Qingtong being defenseless, Little Pig's ears were shaking so hard that they were about to fall off. As long as he could reach Luo Qingtong's side, he would be able to unlock the seal on his main body. At that time, he would slap him to death. Anyway, the Sector Beast was already in his hands. If the land of the deceased immortals was gone, so be it. However, just as Little Pig was thinking this, bang! Oh my god! Little Pig fell head first into the huge light pillar that surrounded Luo Qingtong. The surrounding spiritual energy hurricane was raging, but it had no effect on Luo Qingtong's body. Instead, it sent Little Pig flying. Little Pig was dumbfounded by this flick. What's going on? That light pillar didn't allow him to rush in. If he couldn't rush in and get close to Luo Qingtong, how was he going to deal with Beast Tamer King Guguju? Little Pig was instantly dumbfounded. He didn't expect this at all. Before Luo Qingtong, he had never heard of anyone who could form a contract with a sector beast. Of course, even if there was, no one would know. Therefore, Little Pig had no idea that the light pillar wouldn't let him get close. Was it because Luo Qingtong was in the process of forming a contract with the sector beast, or was it because the sector beast was about to be born? If it was the latter, then he was doomed. He couldn't get close to Beast Tamer King Guguju, but Luo Qingtong would be in danger. Just as Little Pig's heart was in his mouth, Beast Tamer King Guguju had already rushed to Luo Qingtong. Ha ha ha, Luo Qingtong. You bitch, let's see how you're going to block this. Beast Tamer King Guguju directly sent a palm strike towards Luo Qingtong. Little Pig panicked when he saw Tang Wulin's palm break through the range of the light beam and directly attack Luo Qingtong. F***CK, F***CK, F***CK. He really didn't want it to get close. It's over, it's over. Master. Ow ow ow. Little Pig began to squeal. It desperately pounced in the direction of Luo Qingtong. No, you have to wake up. Do not contract with that break world beast. I'm going to die. Little Pig originally thought that as long as he was here, even if he had to destroy the land of the deceased immortals, nothing would happen to Luo Qingtong. The latter probably thought the same. That was why he was so assured in signing the contract. Because as long as Su Yu and the others could hold on for a while, he would be able to rush over. At that time, they could easily crush the Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. However, who would have thought that, this break world beast, damn it, was so troublesome when it came out. It actually didn't allow him to get close. He couldn't get close to Luo Qingtong because he couldn't unseal her aura. Damn it, he couldn't change back to his original form. Aw 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 aw. It's over. Yi Qianming, come quickly. Just as Little Pig was screaming anxiously in his heart, outside the land of the deceased immortals, Yi Qianming suddenly raised his head and looked towards the center of the forbidden area where Luo Qingtong was. Just as the energy around the man's body stirred and was about to rush out, Shwa. Chapter 2178. Her right hand was firmly pressed on the huge ball of light. The blood-red lines on it were spinning rapidly and had already spread to 90% of the ball of light. There was still nearly 10% left, but it was already too late. Humph. Luo Qingtong. Looking at the girl who had opened her eyes, the Beast Tamer King Guguju was indescribably proud and cold. How is it? You didn't expect this, did you? Your subordinates still couldn't stop me. You have indeed trained them well. They were able to withstand our attacks with their weak bodies. If not for the fact that they have only grown for a short period of time and are not strong enough, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to get close to you this time. But it's too late to say anything now. He said ferociously, just give me your life. By the way, the ball of light in your hand is also mine. The Beast Tamer King Guguju laughed wildly as he spoke. The power around his body surged wildly. Combined with the majestic power of the spiritual energy light pillars around him, it surged almost unscrupulously. Then, with an extremely powerful and overwhelming power, it violently blasted towards Luo Qingtong. Bitch, die. Seeing the vast and violent power rushing towards Luo Qingtong like a surging wave, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others all shouted themselves hoarse. Master. Boss. They desperately wanted to rush towards Luo Qingtong. However, they were either seriously injured or about to turn into white bones. Before they could even take a step forward, they had already fallen heavily to the ground. Master! Boss! The crowd looked towards the place where Luo Qingtong was, with tears of blood flowing from their eyes. When the people from the Sky Yuan sect heard their voices, they immediately turned to look in their direction. Seeing the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu's attack towards Luo Qingtong, their pupils suddenly shrank fiercely. Evil Dr. Brat! The Grand Supreme Dean was already covered with injuries. It was already not easy for them to hold on until now under the attacks of the various sections. At this moment, seeing that Luo Qingtong failed to contract successfully and was instead killed by the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu, everyone's eyes were instantly filled with uncontrollable grief and despair. Evil Dr. Brat! The Grand Supreme Dean madly rushed towards Luo Qingtong's direction. When the people who had been desperately trying to stop them, seeing that Luo Qingtong was about to be killed by the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu on the spot, they were too lazy to stop the Grand Supreme Dean and the others. Even if the people from the Sky Yuan sect rushed over, it would be too late. Luo Qingtong's dead. Unless there was a miracle and Luo Qingtong immediately broke through the contract. But how was this possible? Everyone could clearly see that Luo Qingtong was still close to 10% away from successfully forming the contract. The top part of the light ball, where the outer shell was broken, had not been covered by those blood-red veins. And that was the most important part. That was where the little guy in the light ball was. Without covering that part, the contract could not be completed. Luo Qingtong was dead. While they were thinking this, Luo Qingtong looked coldly at the beast tamer King Gu Guzhu's attack in the light beam. Who said they didn't block you? Chapter 2179. No one has done a better job than them. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. In an instant, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao and the rest's tears flowed even more violently. They obviously didn't do that well, but Luo Qingtong had never blamed them. Even at this time, she was still comforting them, saying that they had done a good enough job. Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the rest's eyes were completely choked with sobs. Master, boss, everyone's hearts were filled with unbearable grief. When beast tamer King Gu Guzhu heard Luo Qingtong's words, he immediately sneered with disdain. Luo Qingtong, what tricks are you up to now? Deliberately mystifying things. Whatever you say, even if it's a deluge of heavenly flowers, this time I won't hold back at all. Beast tamer King Gu Guzhu sneered at Luo Qingtong. This woman, did she think that after suffering so many losses at her hands, he would fall for her trick again? Speak. Continue to let her speak. Beast tamer King Gu Guzhu sneered. Even if a flower came out of her mouth, the power of his attack would not be reduced in the slightest. Let's see how Luo Qingtong would dodge his attack this time. The contract imprint on that huge ball of light was still 10% incomplete. Luo Qingtong would definitely not be able to complete it in the time it took for his palm to land. She was dead for sure. Even if she didn't die, she would immediately retreat and dodge his attack. Then, this huge ball of light would fall into his hands. At that time, he would drip his essence blood on it, and immediately take over Luo Qingtong's incomplete contract imprint. Once he formed a contract with this ball of light, wouldn't Luo Qingtong and the rest die all the same? The beast tamer King Gu Guzhu was very pleased with himself. He was certain that Luo Qingtong would die no matter what she did. There was absolutely no possibility of escaping again. This time, he wanted to kill her with his own hands. Then, he would chop her into minced meat and force the people around her to eat. Not only could he ruthlessly torture these people and let them know the consequences of going against him, but he could also make Luo Qingtong completely die without a burial place. This time, she would never be able to escape like she did in the Broken Star Valley. Thinking of this, the beast tamer King Guguju's eyes shone with a cruel light. He looked at Luo Qingtong as if he was looking at a helpless lamb waiting to be slaughtered. In his mind, he was already thinking about how to ruthlessly torture and kill Luo Qingtong. Let her and the people around her know the meaning of grief, despair, and heartbreak. Boom! The beast tamer King Guguju's attack was unceasingly bombarded in the direction of Luo Qingtong. That violent and terrifying power, which hid a cold murderous intent, rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Looking at his attack, Luo Qingtong's eyes were extremely cold. Idiot! Looking at the beast tamer King Guguju's eyes, Luo Qingtong suddenly sneered. Her eyes were full of disdain and contempt. Who told you that I let them block in front of me to buy time and successfully form a contract? Luo Qingtong's eyes were full of coldness. Chapter 2180. She didn't know where Little Pig, Yunxi, and the Great Yong Saint Corpse puppet had gone. She also didn't know when they would arrive. How could Luo Qingtong allow Su Yu and the others to risk their lives just to successfully contract with the Sector Beast? Who knew how long it would take to contract with the Sector Beast? Would there be any unforeseen circumstances during the process? Luo Qingtong could put her life in the hands of Su Yu and the others, but she wouldn't put her life in the hands of the contract with the Sector Beast. She let Su Yu and the others block for her and stall for time for a completely different reason. Life and death yin-yang sword. Just before the palm of the beast tamer King Guguju was about to hit her, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly rose. In the next second, the life and death yin-yang sword, which was black and white and had a fierce aura, appeared in front of her. Swoosh! When the life and death yin-yang sword appeared, Luo Qingtong's mind suddenly moved. In an instant, her mind moved at will. The life and death yin-yang sword and her soul were in pain. Suddenly, she raised it up. An incomparably vast and fierce aura instantly spread out from the life and death yin-yang sword. In an instant, the black and white longsword's color turned into a deep black. The death blade was activated. Heaven-conquering art, annihilation. Now, Luo Qingtong had the strength of a holy venerable. Although she had just broken through to the holy venerable realm, her aura was still very unstable. However, she was indeed already a holy exalted. Combined with the power of the Death Blade and the heaven-conquering art's annihilation attack, the majestic power of the life and death yin-yang sword in front of Luo Qingtong was not inferior to that of the beast tamer King Guguju. Boom! The power of the sword carried a vast power of death. It kept colliding and annihilating along the way, blocking the palm of the beast tamer King Guguju. At the same time, Luo Qingtong's right index finger, which was pressed on the ball of light, broke the shell of the ball of light and stabbed into the ball of light. Puchi! Her hand was completely submerged into the ball of light. Seeing this, the expressions of the beast tamer King Guguju and the others all changed. B** starred. B** tch, what are you doing? The beast tamer King Guguju's face was full of exasperation. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong to be able to use the life and death yin-yang sword to make such a powerful and terrifying attack and directly blocked his attack. Damn it! That sword's a weapon. Otherwise, a normal weapon could be controlled. A weapon, a sword's Guguju was, Luo's was Lin, tessa t's goose. F. T's, s b's. F. S says the, s. S is God. She was trying her best to break through its shell. With Luo Qingtong's attack, the weapon of light would be born in advance. Luo Qingtong, that be *tch, had ruined his chance of obtaining the weapon of light. Ah! The beast tamer King Guguju's face turned black and white in an instant. His face was as cold as a ghost's. Luo Qingtong, you be *tch, die. As he spoke, he suddenly flew into a rage and pounced on Luo Qingtong. Chapter 2181. Had she destroyed his chance to obtain this treasure? She had indeed destroyed his chance. Because this treasure was destined to be hers. Boom! When Beast Tamer King Gu Guju pounced toward Luo Qingtong, the girl's blood-red eyes suddenly shone brightly. In just an instant, Luo Qingtong looked like a demon. That pair of blood-red demon eyes were at their limit. The blood-red light inside was like an incomparable sea of blood and purgatory. It was boundless and almost drowned the world. In Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes, the scene inside the huge ball of light suddenly appeared. Just now, Luo Qingtong had asked Su Yu and the others to resist while she devoted herself to it. It was not to successfully contract with the sector beast, but to be able to operate her eye technique and see the scene inside the ball of light clearly. Now, she finally broke through the power of the universe that covered the ball of light and saw the scene inside clearly. Boom! Luo Qingtong's mind power pierced into the huge ball of light like a sharp sword and easily found the little thing inside the ball of light. The little thing was following the power ripples in the ball of light and was rapidly descending from the top where the thin film was. It was about to leave through the hole that Luo Qingtong had broken open. However, Luo Qingtong's mind power stopped it at this moment. At the same time, the life and death yin-yang sword rapidly transformed into the shape of a living blade. Almost instantly, it rushed into the hole that Luo Qingtong had broken into the ball of light and rushed toward the little thing inside the ball of light. Chirp! 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 When the little thing saw Luo Qingtong's life and death yin-yang sword rushing toward it, it almost subconsciously dodged to the side. The space inside the ball of light was huge, and it was only a small lump. If it wasn't facing Luo Qingtong, it could easily dodge and rush out of the hole that Luo Qingtong had created. However, Luo Qingtong had already used her blood-red eyes to lock onto its movements. How could she let it dodge? As soon as it moved, the direction of the life and death yin-yang sword instantly changed. Chirp! 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 The little thing dodged left and right for a while. When it realized that it really couldn't dodge Luo Qingtong's attack, it suddenly became anxious and hurriedly cried out loudly. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's cold voice rang out. Submit to me, or die. That's right. This was Luo Qingtong's real motive. She wanted the sector beast to voluntarily submit to her. Like the sector beast, a godly creature of the universe was the same as a godly beast. It wasn't so easy for a cultivator to form a contract with it. However, if it voluntarily submitted and signed a contract with a cultivator, then the contract would be formed immediately. From the very beginning, Luo Qingtong had planned to make the sector beast voluntarily submit to her. In this world, she never believed in luck or fluke. She only believed in her own strength. She wanted the sector beast. She also wanted the lives of Beast Tamer King Gu Guju and the others. Chirp! 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 When Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the little thing, which was already incomparably close to the life and death yin-yang sword, suddenly nodded vigorously. Boom! The moment it nodded its head, Yi Zichen nodded. On the light shell, 10% of the white area was instantly covered by the blood-red lines. Chapter 2182. How is this possible? The people from the various sects who were waiting for Luo Qingtong to be killed by the Beast Tamer King Valley's Valley Master couldn't believe their eyes when they saw the blood-red patterns on the huge ball of light. How was this possible? There was still 10% of progress left. How could Luo Qingtong complete it in an instant? They were still saying that unless a miracle happened, Luo Qingtong would be dead for sure. But now, a miracle really happened. Everyone's eyes widened. They didn't know what was going on. They only saw Luo Qingtong break the huge ball of light, and then the contract was completed. Could it be that the treasure in the contract was actually very simple? Just break the shell and it would be done. But after breaking the shell, the treasure inside came out and ran away. How could Luo Qingtong succeed in the contract? Not only that, this speed was simply heaven-defying. Everyone was shocked to the extreme. They couldn't figure out what was going on no matter how hard they racked their brains. Beast Tamer King Guguju, who was rushing towards Luo Qingtong, was also shocked when he saw the contract brand suddenly completed. "No, this is impossible," he screamed. He couldn't accept what was happening in front of him. How was this possible? Luo Qingtong was obviously going to die. After breaking the huge ball of light, the treasure inside should have come out and left. And without that treasure, even if Luo Qingtong's strength increased, she wouldn't be a match for them. He naturally had countless ways to kill her. She shouldn't think of leaving here alive. When the time came, he would chop her into 8 pieces to vent the hatred in his heart. Then he would mercilessly torture those related to her to death. But how did Luo Qingtong succeed in the contract? The beast-taming King Valley's Valley Master's eyes were bulging out of their sockets due to excessive shock. She looked exactly like a goldfish with its eyes rolled up. Boom! While his face was filled with shock, Luo Qingtong's aura also shook violently. That little fellow took the initiative to submit to her. After forming a contract with her, Luo Qingtong regained her freedom. At the same time, her strength as a newly ascended paragon also soared. Boom! Luo Qingtong's power directly broke through to the peak of the Holy Venerate realm with the help of the little fellow's power. Bang! Luo Qingtong raised her hand. In the blink of an eye, he caught Beast Tamer King Guguju's punch. The latter was at the pinnacle of the hidden world, and his strength was far above that of an ordinary Holy Venerate. However, in front of Luo Qingtong, he could not even withstand a single blow. Luo Qingtong did not even use the power of the life and death yin-yang sword. She only used one hand to catch Beast Tamer King Guguju's attack. The corners of her lips curled up coldly. The curve of her lips was unusually cold and evil. Beast Tamer King Guguju, did you have fun just now? Did it feel good to beat up my people? When you were chasing after me, you must have felt very good in your heart, right? Luo Qingtong chuckled. She looked at Beast Tamer King Guguju. The light in her eyes was like a boundless sea of blood, rippling. When Beast Tamer King Guguju saw the blood-red color in her eyes, his heart could not help but violently contract. That powerful and terrifying feeling almost drowned him completely, making him unable to breathe. Chapter 2183. He looks at Luo Qingtong in shock. The girl in front of him is like a demon, The Beast Tamer King Guguju has seen a lot of experts in his life. When he was young, he also met a lot of experts who were many times stronger than him, and he also experienced being hunted down. At that time, he wasn't as strong as he is now, and he also experienced several life and death situations. But no one has ever given him such a terrible feeling of fear like Luo Qingtong. It's like he's not facing a person at this moment, but an Azura from the boundless purgatory, a bloody sea of hell. How strong does a person's aura have to be like Luo Qingtong, able to make people tremble in fear with just her aura alone? How high does a person's former status have to be like Luo Qingtong, as if a gentle glance is already irresistible, like the arrival of a king? Even that Star Alliance Palace master from the Star Alliance Palace, who has the power of the Venerable Realm, didn't make the Beast Tamer King Guguju so scared. Luo Qingtong, what is her identity? A girl from the secular world. To hell with the secular world. How can a place like the secular world cultivate a girl with such an extraordinary aura like Luo Qingtong, like the arrival of a king? Not to mention her terrifying talent and ability, as well as the endless trump cards and treasures on her body. The other party is definitely not as simple as a person from the secular world. The beast tamer King Guguju's heart trembles. He looks at Luo Qingtong, his throat rolling violently. The sweat on his forehead seeps out densely, dripping down along his temples. The beast tamer King Guguju has been struggling with all his might. However, his hand is firmly grasped in Luo Qingtong's hand, as if it's been soldered to death. No matter how hard the beast tamer King Guguju struggles, he can't move the slightest bit. Luo Qingtong's strength had actually reached such a level. One must know that Luo Qingtong and the beast-taming King Valley Master were both at the peak of the Holy Venerate realm. As for the beast-tamer King Guguju, he had been in this realm for who knows how many years. Whether it was in terms of experience, strength, it was not something an ordinary peak Holy Venerate expert could compare to. And Luo Qingtong's strength had only just increased. Other than the fact that his strength was on par with his, everything else should be inferior to his. However, the situation was the exact opposite. He had been stuck at the peak of the Heavenly Venerable Realm for God knows how many years, but he was still inferior to Luo Qingtong, who had just broken through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm, and had even leaped several realms in succession. What kind of fantasy was this? If it wasn't for the fact that the beast-tamer King Guguju was the main character of this story, he would have thought that the other party was joking. However, such a joke actually happened. The beast-tamer King Guguju clearly sensed that no matter how much strength he used, how much strength he struggled, Luo Qingtong could easily counter his situation and dissolve all his strength. How did the other party do it? This strength, this method. She was like an old monster who had been immersed in this realm for God knows how many years. How was she like someone who had just advanced? A strong chill rose in the beast-tamer King Guguju's heart. He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. Chapter 2184. Caw caw caw. In an instant, beast-tamer King Guguju's 5 fingers were crushed into powder by Luo Qingtong in a series of explosive sounds. Then, Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a bloodthirsty smile. She suddenly raised her hand and crushed beast-tamer King Guguju's palm into a pile of flesh and blood. Ah! During this process, beast-tamer King Guguju's voice was extremely miserable. He constantly struggled with all his might. However, under the same realm and strength, Luo Qingtong's pair of blood-red eyes, all of his strength was within Luo Qingtong's expectations. If Luo Qingtong was an ultra-precision microscope, then beast-tamer King Guguju was a sieve full of holes. Under such circumstances, how could he be Luo Qingtong's opponent? Bang! After crushing beast-tamer King Guguju's palm, Luo Qingtong lifted her leg and kicked him away. Pooh! Beast-tamer King Guguju's body flew along the ground where Luo Qingtong kicked him. He flew for nearly a kilometer before heavily smashing into the ground and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Bang bang bang! Beast-tamer King Guguju's body finally smashed into the group of people from the various sections. Quite a few of them were sent flying. It wasn't that no one wanted to stop beast-tamer King Guguju's flying body. However, when they stretched out their hands to stop beast-tamer King Guguju, they were all sent flying by the terrifying and vast power coming from his body. This power naturally couldn't belong to beast-tamer King Guguju. Then it could only belong to Luo Qingtong. Thinking of this, the crowd was extremely shocked. Just like how the beast-tamer King Guguju did not dare to believe in Luo Qingtong's strength. The crowd couldn't believe that Luo Qingtong was so powerful. The other party had just broken through to the peak of the Holy Venerable stage. He actually tortured the beast-tamer King Guguju like he was torturing a dog. Not to mention that all of them were here to stop her, but they couldn't even stop beast-tamer King Guguju, who was sent flying by her. What kind of terrifying power was this? What kind of monstrous talent was this? Everyone had seen their fair share of young geniuses in this world. But at this moment, in front of Luo Qingtong, it seemed that all the young geniuses had lost their radiance and color. Which young genius could be like Luo Qingtong, who had just made a breakthrough and was able to beat up experts of the same realm as if he had been immersed in this realm for countless years? This could no longer be called a genius. It was a monster. If it was said that Luo Qingtong was lucky to be able to contract with that treasure light ball and improve her strength, then using her newly improved strength to torture the beast tamer King Guguju, that was true strength. While everyone was shocked, Sky Yuan sect, Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others were pleasantly surprised. Master. Boss. Su Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others were surprised and happy, crying and laughing at the same time. The so-called going from hell to heaven was just like this. Their hearts were filled with grief just now. Who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would actually turn the tide at the last moment? Thinking of what Luo Qingtong said before, they did very well. Tears of excitement flowed down everyone's cheeks. They had really helped their master. They really protected their master. Everyone's tears flowed freely, crying uncontrollably. Chapter 2185. No one knew how much they wanted to stand by Luo Qingtong's side and block all the wind, frost, sword, and rain for her. They wanted to tell everyone in this world that they weren't trash. They weren't burdens by Luo Qingtong's side. They cultivated with all their might, not fearing danger, not fearing hardship, not fearing death. It was for nothing else but to be able to stay by Luo Qingtong's side. Now, they did it. Everyone was laughing and jumping, almost unable to control themselves. Su Xiaoxiao, little tyrant Yuan, and the others were so excited that they hugged each other. The joy in their hearts at this moment made them unable to feel the pain of their bodies turning into white bones. The people from Sky Yuan's sect were also pleasantly surprised. They couldn't help but look in Luo Qingtong's direction. The girl's reversal was too shocking. They really thought that Luo Qingtong was dead for sure. They didn't expect her to have such a move. The group of people from Sky Yuan sect didn't know how Luo Qingtong managed to complete the contract in an instant. But this didn't stop them from feeling happy. Luo Qingtong's contract was successful and her strength increased. The beast tamer King Guguju and those people from the sects were dead for sure. And the people from Sky Yuan sect were celebrating. It was the end of those people from the sections. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong and the others. Their faces were as if they had lost their parents, and they kept retreating. Run! They screamed at the top of their lungs, then turned around and ran. If there was a chance, these people from the sects wouldn't run away without dignity. But the beast tamer King Guguju was easily sent flying by Luo Qingtong. None of them caught him when they went to catch him. Under such circumstances, how could they dare to stay and deal with Luo Qingtong? The other party was simply an inhuman, an evildoer, a monster. After giving Luo Qingtong a bunch of definitions in their hearts, the group turned and ran. However, the people from Sky Yuan's sect had long had enough of their sufferings. It wasn't easy for the situation to turn around. How could they let these people from the sects escape? Immediately, all of them were stopped. This time, the tables had turned. Previously, they were the ones who desperately blocked the people from Sky Yuan's sect. Now, it was the people from Sky Yuan's sect's turn to attack them. Under the attacks of the people from Sky Yuan's sect, the people from the other sects desperately fled left and right. But the people from Sky Yuan's sect had hope and hope. How could they let them go? They immediately used 120% of their strength to stop them on the spot. After all, Luo Qingtong sighed, How's your injuries is? Luo Qingtong looked at the injuries of Su Yu and Su Xiaoxiao. The latter's SSS. The power of the medicinal liquid Su Xiao concocted is constantly corroding and invading their bodies, turning them into white bones. Su Xiao, Little Tyrant Yuan, and the others were almost half skeletons. But when Luo Qingtong asked them, they grinned and said, "It's okay, boss. We're fine." Little Tyrant Yuan raised his hand to pat his chest, only to find that his limbs had all turned into white bones. He couldn't even lift them. Luo Qingtong looked at them. The bloody light in her eyes surged fiercely, but in the end, she didn't say anything. There was no need to say anything more. Chapter 2186. Luo Qingtong nodded at them, then used her blood-red eyes to analyze the composition of Su Xiao's concoction. Soon, she finished concocting the antidote and gave it to little Overlord Yuan and the others. At the same time, she used the power of the life blade to replenish their vitality. Su Xiao and the others almost lost half of their lives this time. If they couldn't replenish their vitality, even if they took the antidote, they would be plagued with illness in the future, and their bodies would be extremely weak. Fortunately, the power of Luo Qingtong's life blade was specially used to replenish vitality. Very quickly, the life force that they had lost was replenished. At the same time, Luo Qingtong plucked a leaf from the ancient heavenly spirit tree and gave it to them. She told them to wait until the right time to consume it. It would be best to consume it when they were breaking through. This way, the awakened soul imprint would be stronger. Su Xiao and the others complied, then sat down to meditate and recover their vitality. Su Yu and the others' internal injuries were also healed by Luo Qingtong. She also gave the blood-colored immortal jade bones that she had obtained before to Su Yu and the others. She told them to hold on to them so that they could break through in the future. Those blood-colored immortal jade bones had already been refined by Luo Qingtong when they were in the Shattered Star Valley. Because the ancient heavenly spirit tree had absorbed a lot of death energy and evil energy from the immortal jade bones, its growth was also very fast. Now, it already had more than 30 leaves. Luo Qingtong let Little Pig take it to stroll around the area, purifying and picking up all the immortal jade bones among the white bones. With so many immortal jade bones, it was enough for the ancient heavenly spirit tree to grow more leaves. At that time, Luo Qingtong would leave behind some essential leaves, and give the rest to Su Yu and the others. When Little Pig heard this, he immediately agreed to it. He had been scared to death just now. Luo Qingtong was still fine. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. He urgently needed to do something to calm himself down. It was good to pick up treasures. Just as Little Pig was about to leave, Luo Qingtong shifted her gaze back to Beast Tamer King Guguju. The latter was lying on the ground, coughing up blood. He tried his best to get up, but he couldn't. Luo Qingtong's kick was not a random one. The pain Su Yu and the others had suffered at the hands of the Beast Tamer King, Guguju, she wanted him to return it 1,000 times over. "How is it? Comfortable?" Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She sneered as she looked at the figure of the Beast Tamer King Guguju in front of her and slowly walked over. "Isn't it great? When you dealt with my people before, did you also have such a look of absolute control over their lives?" Luo Qingtong smiled. The young girl's face was absolutely beautiful. When she smiled, it was as if she was radiating a dazzling light. Her beauty was indescribable, and her charm could topple cities. However, the depths of her eyes were very cold. His blood-red eyes were like ice-cold flames as they flickered. She walked in front of the Beast Tamer King Guguju. She lowered her head and looked at him, then stepped on his hand. "Ah!" Beast Tamer King Guguju screamed miserably. Luo Qingtong directly crushed his other hand into meat paste. "Sorry, I couldn't control my temper." Luo Qingtong looked at the Beast Tamer King Guguju with a smile. She raised her hand and brushed a strand of hair behind her head. You probably don't know, Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. I hate it when people touch my things. Don't even think about it, touching my people. Luo Qingtong said. The smile on her face became even more evil. Chapter 2187. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Instantly, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu screamed shrilly. Luo Qingtong. Don't be so smug. Perhaps because he knew he was going to die, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu threw caution to the wind. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a twisted and strange smile. So what if you kill me? The leader of the Star Alliance is still waiting outside. As he spoke, he laughed coldly. If we obtain the treasures in this forbidden area, perhaps we can still escape from his hands, or perhaps we can even preserve our lives from his hands. But you... He looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain and laughed loudly. You can only be killed by the people of the Star Alliance. Bitch. Ha ha ha. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu laughed loudly, his heart filled with unspeakable joy and pride. So what if he died? Luo Qingtong, that bitch, would still come to accompany him in the end. At that time, he would wait for Luo Qingtong, that bitch, in the underground. Luo Qingtong looked at his smug and arrogant expression and suddenly raised her eyebrows. Is that so? Luo Qingtong looked at him and said carelessly, someone beside me didn't come in here. Not only that, but several people beside him also didn't come in here. Can you guess why? Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's eyes widened at Luo Qingtong's words. You. He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock and then suddenly remembered that he didn't see the masked man beside her in the land of the deceased immortals. That mysterious masked man was very powerful. If he was in the land of the deceased immortals, he wouldn't be able to deal with Luo Qingtong. But the masked man didn't appear. Why was that? If not for Luo Qingtong's words, even if Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu thought of this, he wouldn't think too much about it. But now, after hearing Luo Qingtong's words, he couldn't help but think of a terrible idea. He's from outside the domain. He's from outside the domain, right? Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu instantly went crazy. Someone from outside the domain, the masked man was actually from outside the domain. And there was no news of that man in the hidden world, and he came from the secular world with Luo Qingtong. Beast Tamer King Gu was very clear about what this meant. This meant that the other party didn't need to go through the stargate that connected the hidden world to the outside world. They could easily break through the barrier and reach the secular world. That was why the people of the hidden world knew nothing about him. Thinking of this, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's heart trembled with indescribable madness. The masked man beside Luo Qingtong actually had such a background. While Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's heart went crazy and was in disbelief, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly twitched. Alright, you already know what you need to know. You can die peacefully now. Also, the corners of Luo Qingtong's lips curled up, and her expression was indescribably indifferent. Since you don't want to choose a way to die, then I'll choose for you. Luo Qingtong basically didn't want to talk so much nonsense. But if she could let Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu die with remaining grievances, she was still willing to talk a little more nonsense. While speaking, Luo Qingtong waved her hand. In an instant, several figures were dragged over by her. Chapter 2188. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she released the power that bound those figures. In an instant, those figures pounced towards Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu. Ah! When he saw Luo Qingtong dragging those figures over, Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's eyes widened. These people were none other than the Beast Taming King Valley's Valley Master. They were the ones who had turned the Beast Taming King Valley's elders into mindless monsters. These people had been fed the immortal jade bone and mutated in front of beast tamer King Guguju and the others. Afterwards, they were thrown to Su Yu and the others to deal with the great Yong Saint corpse puppet. Now that Luo Qingtong had dragged them over, they could deal with beast tamer King Guguju. Naturally, only beast tamer King Guguju could reap the fruits of his own actions. Ah! Beast tamer King Guguju screamed miserably. At this moment, his aura was sealed by Luo Qingtong, just like Su Yu and the others. When those mutated beast tamer King Valley elders rushed over, he was unable to resist. At this moment, Luo Qingtong temporarily removed the influence in the minds of those mutated beast tamer King Valley elders, allowing them to regain some of their consciousness. Under such circumstances, these beast tamer King Valley elders looked at beast tamer King Guguju as if they wished they could chew on his bones and eat his flesh. They madly rushed towards beast tamer King Guguju. Using their mutated tentacles and sharp thorns, they ruthlessly pierced into Guguju's body, sweeping him up and tearing him apart bit by bit. A group of people rushed over, desperately gnawing at his body and flesh. Beast tamer King Guguju struggled with all his might, but he couldn't use any strength. No matter how hard he struggled, it was useless. Instead, it stimulated those mutated beast tamer King Valley elders, who tore and gnawed at him even more crazily. Those miserable screams mixed with the sound of chewing continued to ring out, causing one's hair to stand on end. The people from the other sects who had tried their best to escape but had been stopped by the people from the Heavenly Yuan sect turned around and saw this scene. Immediately, many of them were so frightened that they cried and knelt down, begging Luo Qingtong to spare their lives. The girl stood in the center of the forbidden zone, her face cold. "Kneel down and swear that you will be my slaves forever, and I will spare your lives." For Luo Qingtong, anyone who tried to kill her was unforgivable. However, most of the experts from the sects in the hidden world were here. If Luo Qingtong killed all of these people, she would have to face the mess of the hidden world in the future. On the contrary, it was not beautiful. It was better to have these people submit, swear to be slaves, and never betray him. This way, she could save a lot of trouble. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the faces of many sects people stiffened. Swearing to be a slave forever meant that he would be Luo Qingtong's slave for the rest of his life. Not only that, he would not be free even after death. In the future, when he reincarnated, he would still have to be Luo Qingtong's slave. Many people hesitated. At this moment, Luo Qingtong waved her hand indifferently. Kill! Su Yu and the others had already recovered their strength. Hearing this, they immediately jumped up, brought their contracted beasts, and started to kill with the people from the Heavenly Yuan sect. Seeing this, the people from the other sects were instantly scared out of their wits. Those who were still hesitating before saw Su Yu and the others rushing over and remembered that this was the land of the fallen immortals. Once they died here, their consciousness and soul might be completely left here in the future, not to mention the afterlife. Thinking of this, the crowd immediately swore. Luo Qingtong looked at them and raised her eyebrows. Just as she was about to say something, suddenly. Chapter 2189. Chirp chirp chirp. There was a slight sound, and then a small figure appeared in front of Luo Qingtong like a flash of lightning. Pa Ji. The moment the figure appeared, Luo Qingtong subconsciously slapped it. In an instant, the little thing was slapped to the ground, and it fell with a loud thud. Woo! Wah! Before Luo Qingtong could react, she saw a small white ball on the ground looking at her with a pout. Then it started to cry. Chirp 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 chirp. Luo Qingtong looked at it jumping on the ground with tears in its eyes. She didn't know what it was complaining about, and her lips twitched. She looked at the little thing and saw that it was round and looked like a ball. There was a small tuft of something on its head that she didn't know if it was fur or a mark. She suddenly reached out to touch it curiously. You are, that sector beast. Luo Qingtong held the last two words in her mouth, but she didn't say them out loud. In this forbidden area, there was such a small, round, chubby thing, and it seemed to be a newborn beast. Other than the sector beast in the ball of light, Luo Qingtong couldn't think of anything else. However, this sector beast was actually like this. Luo Qingtong looked at the little thing that was crying so hard that its tears almost piled up into a small pond. Her lips twitched even more. She raised her hand to touch the soft little thing, then saw it pout and cry even harder. She couldn't help but raise her hand to support her forehead. This was the sector beast. The treasure that the great beings from other regions had risked their lives to get here. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. She suddenly felt like her heart was disillusioned. What happened to being so domineering? It was so soft and crybaby, and it was so small, it didn't match the domineering and powerful aura it had shown when it was about to be born. Luo Qingtong didn't know what to say. She looked at the huge ball of light behind her. The latter had already shattered into several pieces. Streams of origin aura emanated from it. Obviously, this little fellow was that sector beast. There was no doubt about it. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched as she thought about it. Right after she completed the contract, she was busy dealing with the beast tamer King Guguju. He did not pay too much attention to this small sector beast. The latter did not come out immediately after completing the contract with her. Did he just come out after absorbing the energy from the light ball? Luo Qingtong looked at the little dumpling on the ground. The latter was also looking at her. Seeing that she had no intention of comforting it, it suddenly jumped towards Luo Qingtong. This time, Luo Qingtong didn't send it flying. That little ball rushed into Luo Qingtong's arms and rubbed against her chest pitifully. Then, it blinked a pair of big eyes and looked at her. She looked both aggrieved and pitiful. There was even a hint of anticipation in his voice. Luo Qingtong looked at its eyes and said uncertainly, "Do you want me to hug you?" She reached out and picked it up. After being picked up by her, the latter was so happy that it jumped up and down. Its big, cute eyes narrowed into slits, looking like crescent moons. It was very cute. Obviously, it wanted Luo Qingtong to hug it. Chapter 2190. The corners of Luo Qingtong's lips twitched slightly. It turned out that this little guy was here to ask for kisses, hugs, and hugs. It was also here to complain about how she had bullied it. This was really, Luo Qingtong felt that the image of the sector beast in her mind had been completely destroyed. Speaking of which, among her pets, Snowball was the only one who looked like a divine beast. The rest were Little Pig, this sector beast, and that gold-seeking hamster. They were all a bunch of adorable fools. They did not have any powerful aura at all. As Luo Qingtong thought about this, the corners of her lips twitched again. At this moment, the little ball jumped out of her arms and hopped toward the place where the huge light shell had broken. Chirp chirp chirp. It hopped on the huge light shell fragments and chirped toward Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong looked at it and immediately walked over. "What are you trying to do?" Luo Qingtong looked at it and thought for a while. Then she asked, "Do you want me to take them away?" She watched as Xiaotuanzi bounced around on the fragments of the light shell. Chirp chirp chirp. The soft and cute little ball quickly nodded and chirped. "Okay." Luo Qingtong nodded. In the waist ring in her hand, there was no lack of huge space. It was more than enough to store these light shells. Although she did not know what these light shells were used for, they were the light balls of the sector beast's birth. Maybe they were useful to it. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, she immediately kept the huge shards of the light shell. She picked out a huge space ring from the waist ring that Little Pig had given her. She waved her hand and put the huge light shell fragments scattered on the ground into the waste ring. Seeing this, the Sky Yuan sect leader and the others, who were walking toward Luo Qintong, were shocked. They also had similar space spirit weapons. However, they could not do what Luo Qintong did and put away the huge light shell fragments with a wave of her hand, because it required too much space. Luo Qintong actually had such a huge spatial Sumerus spirit tool in her hands. Everyone looked at Luo Qintong with amazement and awe. Not because of anything else, the ability Luo Qintong had revealed was already extraordinary. Now that she had such a large spatial Sumerus spirit tool in her hands, everyone couldn't help but guess the true identity of Luo Qintong. Even if the highest dean had tried his best to testify that Luo Qintong was someone from the true Spill Continent secular world. However, just like how the beast tamer King Gu Guju couldn't believe that Luo Qintong was from the secular world, the Sky Yuan sect couldn't believe it either. After all, was there anyone in the secular world who had an endless trump card like Luo Qintong and an unfathomable ability? With the talent and strength that Luo Qintong had displayed, no one would doubt that she was a powerful direct descendant of a great race or a high-level power. While everyone was thinking, they had already walked to Luo Qintong's side. Miss Luo, the Sky Yuan sect leader, was deliberating, thinking of just how to broach the subject with Luo Qintong. Now that most of the influences in the hidden world had already submitted to Luo Qintong, the people of the Sky Yuan sect also intended to pledge their allegiance to Luo Qintong. After all, with the general trend of events, there was no benefit to their Sky Yuan sect remaining independent. On the contrary, with the friendship that they had with Su Yu and the others in protecting Luo Qintong, if they pledged their allegiance, Luo Qintong absolutely wouldn't treat them badly. As the Sky Yuan sect leader thought this, he opened his mouth to speak. Chapter 2191. Rumble. The entire Forbidden Zone was in turmoil again. Just where Luo Qintong and the others were standing, in the sky above the center of the Forbidden Zone, dark clouds suddenly rolled and roared. The entire Forbidden Zone, and even the land of the fallen immortals, was shaken. The commotion was not any weaker than when the sector beasts were born. What's going on? In the Forbidden Zone, everyone's faces were filled with shock. They didn't know why there would be such a commotion and change in the land of the fallen immortals. Hadn't that ball of light already been born? The treasure that the extraterrestrial experts were fighting for had already belonged to Luo Qintong. How could there still be such a big commotion and change? Could it be that there were other treasures in the Forbidden Zone? But that ball of light was already something that the extraterrestrial experts were fighting for. What treasure could be more precious than it? Everyone was thinking about this, and then they looked at the scene that had suddenly condensed in the sky. They saw an incomparably huge human face appear in the sky above the center of the Forbidden Zone. The face was extremely strange and ugly. When pieced together, it looked like a ferocious ghost monster. The lines on the face were constantly twisting and moving. Everyone looked at the shape of the human face. Suddenly, a sect member raised his hand and pointed at the huge human face. With a shocked expression, he shouted, "Look, this isn't a human face. It's something formed by countless human faces mixed together. What the hell is this?" His voice was filled with indescribable panic and fear. Anyone who saw such a scene could not help but feel their hair stand on end. On the huge face, there were countless faces densely packed together. The expressions on these faces were different, and they were constantly changing and twisting. That was why the expression on the huge face was so strange and terrifying. Everyone looked at the huge face in the sky and felt their hair stand on end. Just as the person from the sect said, "What the hell was this? How could there be such a big commotion in the land of the fallen immortals at this time?" As for Luo Qintong, she frowned when the huge face appeared. Not for any other reason, but when the huge face appeared, the little ball jumped up and rushed into her arms. Then, it kept chirping something. Luo Qingtong couldn't understand its words, but she could hear the panic and fear in its words. Was this huge face coming for this little guy? Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She raised her head and looked at the place where the giant face had appeared. Her blood-red eyes flickered, and she quickly saw the true appearance of the giant face. The densely packed human faces embedded in the huge human face had completely merged with the aura of the fallen immortal land. The faces were derived from the aura of the land of the deceased immortals. What are they? Luo Qingtong looked at the faces crowded together. The bloody light in her eyes flickered. Soon, she had an idea. These human faces couldn't be the manifestation of the obsessions of the foreign race experts that died here, right? At this thought, Luo Qingtong's heart skipped a beat. She carefully looked at the densely packed human faces and quickly confirmed that her idea was correct. These human faces were really a collection of the obsessions of the foreign race experts. Chapter 2192. Rumble. With the appearance of the giant face, the aura in the land of the fallen immortals boiled even more violently. Violent auras filled the air. They thought that the opening of the land of the fallen immortals would cause the aura to weaken. Now that the giant face had appeared, the aura became even denser. The black aura spread throughout the land of the fallen immortals, causing everyone in the forbidden area to panic. Oh no! The aura in the land of the fallen immortals is getting stronger. Yeah. Quick, let's get out of here, or we'll all die here. Everyone's heart was filled with panic. The land of the fallen immortals was never a friendly place. If it weren't for the fact that the land of the fallen immortals would open for a period of time every year, causing the aura inside to weaken, they wouldn't have come here. But now, the aura in the land of the fallen immortals was getting stronger again. It wasn't time for the land of the fallen immortals to close yet, but the aura was getting stronger. No matter how stupid they were, they could guess that it had something to do with the giant face that had appeared in the forbidden area. Everyone panicked and hurriedly asked Luo Qingtong to take them away. After all, they were Luo Qingtong's slaves now. They couldn't leave without permission. However, as soon as they spoke, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded faintly. It's too late. Luo Qingtong looked around as she spoke. Thick black fog had already spread out in the center of the forbidden area. It was even more corrosive than the aura in the land of the fallen immortals. In the blink of an eye, the black fog spread from the edge of the forbidden area. Ah! A few disciples who came into contact with the black fog screamed in agony. Then, they quickly turned into walking corpses. They screamed shrilly as they rushed towards their fellow disciples. The latter didn't have time to react. Many of them were pushed to the ground. Left with no other choice, the others took action and killed the corrupted disciples. Everyone retreated with pale faces, not knowing what to do. The aura in the forbidden area was too terrifying. If it was the aura of the land of the fallen immortals outside, it would be fine. They had immortal jade bones on them, so they could just barely hold on for a while. As long as they were fast enough, they could still escape. However, at this moment, they were surrounded in the center of the forbidden area. The aura inside was enough to kill them the moment they touched it. Even the immortal jade bones aura was of no use. What the hell is going on? Everyone felt despair in their hearts. The Heavenly Yuan sect master and the others, who had originally planned on talking to Luo Qingtong about pledging their allegiance, paled at this sight. Miss Luo, do you have any ideas? They looked hopefully at Luo Qingtong. If there was anyone here who had a solution, it would probably be Luo Qingtong. Before the girl entered the Forbidden Zone, she was already able to help them neutralize the power from the Forbidden Zone. After that, he made arrangements on Su Yu and the others to ensure that they would be safe in the Forbidden Zone. Perhaps there would be a way this time as well. Everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. Su Yu, Su Xiao Xiao, and the others stopped recovering and retreated to Luo Qingtong's side in a well-trained manner. Master, boss. Chapter 2193. Luo Qingtong responded in a low voice. She glanced at the spreading black fog and said to Su Yu and the others, "Distribute some of the blood-colored immortal jade bones to them." Luo Qingtong had given Su Yu and the others a lot of purified blood-colored immortal jade bones. They hadn't absorbed much when they recovered, so they immediately responded and distributed some of the purified blood-colored immortal jade bones to the people from the sections. These blood-colored immortal jade bones had a stronger aura than ordinary immortal jade bones, and the power of blood was also thicker. After the people from the sects received the blood-colored immortal jade bones, they were no longer attacked by the black fog. But this alone wasn't enough. Luo Qingtong stared intently at the spreading black fog. Crack, crack, crack. Amidst the black fog, the sound of rusty gears grinding could be heard continuously. It also sounded like something sharp was scraping in the air, making one's hair stand on end. Roar! As those voices continued to ring out, sharp and sinister whistles began to ring out one after another. Then, everyone saw one figure after another stepping out of the thick black fog. Their skeletons were wretched, their eye sockets were empty, and dark flames were rising from them. These figures that appeared in the thick fog were actually skeletons. Those are the corpses of the foreign experts who died here. Seeing this scene, many people from the sects cried out with pale faces. They're all alive. When their voices rang out, Luo Qing's eyes clearly saw the white skeletons standing up one after another in the places where the black fog filled the air. At this moment, they were surrounded by an army of skeletons that stretched as far as the eye could see. Obviously, these skeletons were all under the control of the giant human face in the sky. Seeing this, Luo Qingtong instantly figured out many things. She recalled that Bai Suqing had once told her that divine beasts would pass by the restricted area of the fallen immortal land from time to time. Therefore, they suspected that there were divine beasts among them. Now, it was confirmed that the divine beasts were actually the power of the giant sector beast's light ball to protect itself. Then there was a problem. The foreign experts in the restricted area were all dead. The sects in the hidden world knew of the dangers in the restricted area, so they wouldn't go in easily. In that case, who was the mythical beast flowing light fighting against? Or rather, what kind of power were they fighting against? Luo Qingtong looked at the giant human face floating in the sky. She already had an answer in her heart. Obviously, these foreign experts were still unwilling to give up after their deaths. They wanted to obtain the sector beast, so their minds were entangled and wouldn't dissipate even after death. When the fallen immortal land was formed, they had always been coveting the sector beast. But this time, when the sector beasts were born, they were scattered by the majestic and vast spirit chi-light pillars and hurricanes. They could not gather together at all, and they could not get close to the sector beasts. Under such circumstances, they had deliberately loosened the restrictions of the Forbidden Zone and allowed people from the outside sects to enter. This was all to prevent the birth of the sector beast. After the sector beast was born, they would no longer have any chance to obtain the sector beast. When Luo Qingtong thought of this, she immediately understood what was going on. At this moment, swoosh. Chapter 2194. Oh, my mommy Mia. Little Pig ran like a gust of wind with his two little ears perked up. He dashed out of the black mist. He was picking up and purifying the celestial jade bones with the ancient heavenly spirit wood when the black mist spread over. Then the white bones came back to life. Fortunately, he ran fast enough. Otherwise, he might have been made into a pork hot pot. It ran to Luo Qingtong's side and handed the useless ring containing the ancient heavenly spiritual wood to Luo Qingtong. Then, with a look of lingering fear, it patted its chest with its little hoof and said, "Oh my God, I was scared to death." "Hey, what is this?" He looked at the little ball in Luo Qingtong's arms and poked it with his little hoof. Instantly, Xiao Tuanzi jumped to his feet. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It bounced toward Little Pig, but was stopped by Little Pig with one of its hoof. "Wait." The corner of Little Pig's mouth twitched as he looked at the little meatball that was struggling and jumping around in his hand. "This guy that looks like a glutinous rice ball, is that Sector Beast?" Just like Luo Qingtong, Little Pig was in disbelief. Oh my God. What happened to being domineering and cool? What happened to being more awesome than an ancient divine beast? Did Luo Qingtong take such a huge risk to contract with a meatball just now? Little Pig looked at the little ball of meat in his hands. His whole body, no, pig, was a little uncomfortable. What's the use of this little guy? Is he going to throw it to the enemy to choke them to death? This was simply too hilarious. Wait, is it because you cut it out that it's stunted? Little Pig shook the little sector beast in his hands. The little sector beast looked at him with a gloomy face. Then, it roared and bit at Little Pig's hoof. Ouch! Little Pig wanted to see what ability this little sector beast had and whether it was affected in any way. Logically speaking, when a sector beast was born, it should be an adult. This was because they weren't real beasts, but the manifestation of the laws of heaven and earth. It was not that Little Pig had never seen a sector beast before, but he had never seen one as small as this. Could it be that this guy was really affected by Luo Qingtong's autopsy and that it wasn't time for him to be born yet? If that was the case, he didn't know if its ability was still there. However, before it could check, the little ball bit it. Little Pig swung his little hooves and jumped on the spot while squealing. Little Furball, on the other hand, ran back into Luo Qingtong's arms. "You bastard!" Little Pig clenched his teeth as he looked at it. However, before he could run over and grab Xiao Tuanzi, the giant face in the sky moved. Roar! It opened its mouth wide and roared. The white bones in the black fog rushed towards Luo Qingtong and the others. These white bones were formed from the corpses of the alien experts. Now, under the control of the aura of their obsessions, although they didn't have the full strength they had when they were alive, they still had 10 to 20% of their strength. This army of white bones spread all over the mountains and plains, making people look awe-inspiring. Master! Boss! Su Yu and Su Xiaoxiao immediately went to Luo Qingtong's side to protect her. Chapter 2195. All of you, come here. Luo Qingtong looked at the army of skeletons rushing over with a very cold expression. Back then, the foreign experts who came here to fight for the sector beast were all above the venerable realm. Now, even if these skeletons only had 10 to 20% of their strength, they were still at the holy venerable realm. Not to mention that the black fog around them was corrosive. The people from the various sects would be at a disadvantage if they were to fight in the black fog. After all, the blood-immortal jade bones that Luo Qingtong had obtained before were limited. Once the power of the blood-immortal jade bones was exhausted, Su Yu and the others, as well as the people of the sects, would not be able to resist the attack of the black fog. Luo Qingtong thought and immediately gathered Su Yu and the others. Among them were those who had already sworn to become Luo Qingtong's slaves. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong had made them swear before. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble would have happened in the forbidden area at this moment? Luo Qingtong did not have the time to deal with them at this time. But now, there was no need to worry. These people were already on her side, and they even helped Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong was very glad that she had not killed these people along with Beast Tamer King Guguju. Yes. When the people of the sects heard Luo Qingtong's words, they immediately ran over to her. The young girl was their only hope and way out. Not to mention that they had already sworn to become Luo Qingtong's slaves. Even if they had not sworn, at this moment in the forbidden area, only Luo Qingtong could save them. The crowd ran over in a panic. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and released the ancient heavenly spirit wood from the waist ring in her hand. Bang! The ancient heavenly spirit wood was much taller than the sapling from before. It was about 5 meters tall. Also, the waist ring in Luo Qingtong's hand was refined by Tianmingzi, so the space inside was extraordinarily big. Otherwise, it would not be able to hold it. Swoosh! After the ancient heavenly spirit wood landed on the ground, it immediately stretched out its branches and leaves. Wherever its branches and leaves went, the black fog could not get close at all. In an instant, there was a vacuum between Luo Qingtong and the others. Seeing this scene, the people of the sects and the Sky Yuan sect were both surprised and delighted. Luo Qingtong's methods were endless. Was she really just a young girl from the secular world? The people of the Sky Yuan sect could not help but think. As for the people from the other sects, they swore to be Luo Qingtong's slaves unwillingly. At this moment, he no longer had any complaints in his heart. Luo Qingtong had too many tricks up her sleeve. They wouldn't be at a disadvantage if they followed such a person. If they performed better in the future, they might even be able to enjoy endless benefits. Thinking of this, the crowd suddenly rejoiced in their hearts. While the crowd surrounded Luo Qingtong, relying on the ancient heavenly spirit wood to resist the skeleton army, screech. From an unknown place within the black fog, a series of beast cries and roars could be vaguely heard. Hearing these sounds, Luo Qingtong felt inexplicably familiar. In this forbidden area, there were other people besides them. Chapter 2196. Oh my God! Oh no, oh no! I forgot. That girl named Yunxi. The one you gave the beast mark inheritance to in the Broken Star Valley. She deliberately stopped outside the center of the forbidden area for you and lured away the contracted beasts of the beast tamer King Guguju and the others. Oh my Mamma Mia, how could it forget about this? No wonder I kept feeling that something was wrong when I collected those immortal jade bones. I forgot about one person. Luo Qingtong's expression changed when she heard this. No wonder she didn't see the golden-winged condor and the others when she tortured the beast tamer King Guguju. Luo Qingtong didn't expect that Yunxi lured them away outside the center of the forbidden area. You guys stay here. I'll go get them. The beast tamer King Guguju and the others were dead, and the golden-winged condor and the others had recovered from the control of the beast tamer spell. They should be on their way here right now. As Luo Qingtong thought about it, her figure shot forward like an arrow. Hey, wait, I'll go with you. Little Pig said as he quickly hopped on his 4 hooves to catch up. Bang! Outside the center of the forbidden area, Yunxi lay on the back of the golden-winged condor. The golden-winged condor carried her and rushed toward the center of the forbidden area with a group of other demonic beasts. They had completely regained consciousness after the death of the beast tamer King Guguju. It was just that Yunxi fell into a coma after using the beast mark inheritance. Because the group of demonic beasts was summoned by her, they could only wait for her by her side. Fortunately, Yunxi woke up not long after she fell into a coma. After asking about her relationship with Luo Qingtong, the golden-winged condor carried her toward the center of the forbidden area. However, no one expected that there would be a change in the center of the forbidden area halfway. Looking at the white bones waking up one after another, the group of demonic beasts didn't know what was going on. They could only try their best to rush toward the center of the forbidden area. However, there were simply too many skeletons. Coupled with the invasion of the black mist, fortunately, Yunxi had the blood celestial jade bone that Luo Qingtong had given her. Otherwise, they would have been corroded before these skeletons could do anything. Just as the golden-winged condor and the others were desperately killing the skeletons, Luo Qingtong arrived. Bang! The young girl's sword was like a dragon, and in an instant, it swept into the group of the golden-winged condors, killing all the white bones that were entangled around them. Go! Luo Qingtong rushed to the golden-winged condor and said to it. It was only then that the latter discovered that Luo Qingtong's strength had actually increased to peak holy exalted level. Oh my god, isn't this little girl's strength increasing too quickly? What on earth did she do? The golden-winged condor looked at Luo Qingtong with a strange expression on its face. Its consciousness had been suppressed by the beast tamer King Guguju before, so it didn't know what was going on in the outside world. It also didn't know that Luo Qingtong had successfully contracted a sector beast. However, seeing Luo Qingtong like this, it should have also obtained a great opportunity. The golden-winged condor didn't ask any more questions. It followed Luo Qingtong and swept toward the center of the forbidden area. At this time, in the outside world, the palace master of the Star Alliance and the others had been paying close attention to the movements in the land of the deceased immortals. When they saw the huge human face appear in the sky, everyone present was shocked. What is this? The people in the palace master of the Star Alliance were shocked. Chapter 2197. On the other hand, the Star Alliance Temple Master was extremely excited. So that's how it is. He looked at the giant face in the sky and finally understood why the land of the fallen immortals didn't allow outsiders and experts above the Exalt realm to enter. It turned out that the great beings from other domains who had died here were still unwilling to give up on the sector beasts inside. That was why they had gathered their consciousness bodies to prevent the others from entering and taking away the sector beasts. But they suddenly appeared now. Was it because someone had already obtained the sector beast? Thinking of this, the Star Alliance Temple Master was indescribably excited. He had just seen the heaven and earth anomaly in the sky disappear, so he did not know whether the sector beast had successfully been born or not. Is there anyone who has contracted it? Now that he saw the giant face, he immediately had an idea. Obviously, the sector beast had indeed been born, and someone had already obtained it. Very good, ha ha ha. The Star Alliance Temple Master laughed loudly. Someone had obtained the sector beast, which meant he could also obtain the sector beast. As long as he could kill the person who had contracted the sector beast. Let's go. The Star Alliance Temple Master's expression was cold. He looked at the giant face in the land of the fallen immortals and said in a low voice, "Take our people and enter the land of the fallen immortals." They had not entered the land of the fallen immortals before because they did not know what treasures were in it. Besides, the land of the fallen immortals did not allow them to enter, or they would collapse. But now, he knew that the treasure inside was a sector beast, and he also knew that the giant human face was an amalgamation of the minds of the great beings from other regions. It was the face that controlled the aura in the land of the fallen immortals and prevented them from entering. Since that was the case, what was there to worry about? This giant human face was probably waiting to kill the person who had contracted the sector beast. Under such circumstances, how could it have the time to stop them from entering? If they went now, they could be the oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada. Thinking of this, the Star Alliance Temple Master could not wait any longer. He leaped and led the people of the Star Alliance Temple into the land of the fallen immortals. The experts of the Star Alliance Hall dashed into the thick black mist in the land of the deceased immortals. With their strength, the fog's influence on them was limited. Moreover, they also had immortal jade bones. When the Star Alliance Temple Master and the others entered the land of the deceased immortals, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others also looked up at Yi Qianxian. Master. Their voices were inquiring. As soon as the huge human face appeared, they could tell its origin at a glance. Obviously, the sector beast had been taken by someone else. He wondered if that person was the evil physician. But even if he wasn't an evil doctor, now, this giant human face was going to deal with the person who had obtained the sector beast. Evil doctor was in the middle of it, so he was afraid that he would be implicated and would not be spared. Go! Yi Qianqian's eyes were cold. His gaze never left the sky at the center of the forbidden area in the land of the deceased immortals. He had seen the giant human face transform with his own eyes. If his guess was correct, the person who had obtained the sector beast should be that woman. Chapter 2198. The light of warning that had been flashing intensely above the ladder, disturbing his state of mind, had disappeared at this moment. Obviously, Luo Qingtong was out of danger. That woman, if she hadn't gotten the sector beast, how could she be so safe and sound? Yi Qianxian thought, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Then, in the next second, his figure swept up, and in an instant, like a graceful sunset, he swept toward the land of the deceased immortals. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others followed closely behind him. At this moment, in the center of the forbidden area in the land of the deceased immortals. After Luo Qingtong went to meet Yun Shi and the golden-winged eagle, the skeleton army immediately changed their direction and rushed toward the direction that Luo Qingtong had left. When Luo Qingtong brought Yun Shi and the others back, the resistance they encountered was dozens of times greater than when she had left. Bang! Luo Qingtong raised her sword and killed a skeleton that was rushing toward her. Another skeleton of the Holy Venerable Realm also rushed toward her at this moment. Their target was the little dumpling in her arms. Sensing the movements of these skeletons, Luo Qingtong became more and more certain of her previous guess. She came out to meet Yun Shi and the others in person to confirm whether her previous guess was right. Unfortunately, it seemed that she had guessed right. Looking at the dense skeleton army in front of her, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. The blood-red light in them suddenly exploded and gathered again. In her eyes, an extremely magnificent and ever-changing scene was formed. Heaven-conquering art, annihilation. After confirming the most vulnerable and easiest route in the skeleton army through her blood-red eyes, Luo Qingtong's figure swept up in an instant. The black sword light shone brilliantly in an instant, almost the most brilliant killing intent and the most dazzling light in the world. The light, like the god of death spreading his wings, swept straight up, and streaked across the sky with a cold light that almost broke the sky, and blasted forward. Bang bang bang. Countless skeletons were killed by the death blade light transformed from the life and death yin-yang sword in Luo Qingtong's hand at this moment. The power of death was already very effective against these skeletons. If it weren't for the fact that these skeletons had a physical body, if they were the ghosts and blood-red phantoms that Luo Qingtong had faced before, Luo Qingtong would have been able to annihilate this army of skeletons by herself. Her death blade was the nemesis of all death chi and souls in this world. Boom boom boom. Luo Qingtong's sword light smashed the bones into pieces. Luo Qingtong's figure flew up. Her red dress streaked across the sky like the world's most stunning ray of light. Go! She led the golden-winged condor and the others and flew forward along the path she had created. Along the way, all the white bones that blocked her way were all shattered and exploded in an instant, turning into clouds of white smoke. Bang bang bang. Just as Su Yu and the others couldn't wait and wanted to rush out to find her, Luo Qingtong and the golden-winged condor appeared in their line of sight. Everyone, go in. Seeing that Su Yu and the others were about to rush out of the range of the ancient heavenly spiritual wood, Luo Qingtong frowned slightly and berated them in a low voice. Everyone hurriedly retreated when they heard this. Luo Qingtong led the golden-winged condor and the others in. Chapter 2199. Master. Su Yu and the others quickly surrounded Luo Qingtong after she rushed in. Yes. Luo Qingtong nodded, then looked at Yun Shi, who was on the golden-winged condor. The latter's body was covered in blood, and she looked very scary. Obviously, Yunxi had paid a great price to forcibly summon the golden-winged condor and the others. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered, and she quickly found out everything about Yunxi's body. She had temporarily lost her strength, and the time to recover was not long. At the same time, the power of the beast mark inheritance in Yunxi's body had disappeared. It seemed that Yunxi had used the forbidden power of the Zhuge 13 beast mark inheritance to become like this. However, this power could be recovered. Luo Qingtong watched the power of the beast mark in Yunxi's body slowly recover. However, at this speed, it would take Yunxi a year and a half for her strength to recover. That was too long. And Luo Qingtong looked at the cracks on the beast mark in Yunxi's body. If it was not repaired, even if Yunxi's strength recovered in the future, the power she could use would be greatly reduced. It could be said that in order to help her this time, Yunxi had wasted most of the power of the beast mark inheritance. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed, and she remembered this in her heart. After leaving the land of the fallen immortals, she would find a way to help Yunxi restore the power of the beast mark in her body. However, the level of the Zhuge 13 beast mark was very high. Luo Qingtong would need the herbs to repair it, which were not available in the true Spill continent. She would have to see if she could find them in the extraterrestrial. Just as Luo Qingtong was thinking, she heard a series of fierce roars from outside. Then, the army of bones that had been left behind by Luo Qingtong and the golden-winged condor rushed over again. There seemed to be no end to those white bones. Too many extraterrestrial powerhouses had died here in the past. Perhaps it was because of the obsession of those extraterrestrial powerhouses after they died, but the bones gathered again after being smashed. It was no wonder that in this forbidden zone, there had been an endless stream of attacks aimed at the sector beast's light mass. They wanted to get the sector beast. If it wasn't for this, it would have been shattered by the divine beasts. It was impossible for it to exist for so many years. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. She looked at the endless white bone army and said to the people around her, "Follow closely. Let's go." As she spoke, she waved her hand, and the ancient heaven spirit wood that she had placed on the ground was pulled up by her. Shwa! The ancient heavenly spirit wood floated above her head as she held it up with one hand. Go! Luo Qingtong shouted in a low voice, and in an instant, her figure swept out. Su Yu, the Sky Yuan sect, and the other sects followed beside her. The group of people rushed towards the center of the forbidden zone. Bang bang bang! The branches of the ancient heavenly spirit tree extended. The thick black fog lingered 3 inches away from it, unable to get close at all. Below it, Luo Qingtong and the others only cared about killing the enemies. Countless skeletons fell under their attacks. Especially Luo Qingtong. With a slash of her sword, she swept away a large number of white bones. They forcefully carved out a bloody path in the dense army of skeletons. Chapter 2200. But even so, with so many of them, the number of bones they cleared was still very impressive. The group of people kept approaching the edge of the forbidden area. Luo Qingtong and the others were about to leave the center of the forbidden area, and the army of bones could not stop them at all. In the sky, the huge human face that was constantly changing its expression and shape roared fiercely at this moment. The sharp and sinister cry resounded through the sky in an instant. In the next second, its figure looked down at the world and suddenly rushed towards Luo Qingtong and the others. Boom! As its figure surged, the thick black fog between heaven and earth was like boiling water in an instant. It constantly surged and rolled violently towards Luo Qingtong and the others. Seeing this scene, the group of people following Luo Qingtong could not help but gasp in shock and fear. They didn't know if the strange tree above their heads could block the attack. After all, the black fog was enough to easily erode them. Now, the fog, stirred by the huge human face, was so dense that it almost turned into liquid. Countless black water droplets lingered around them and flew towards them. Ah! A sect disciple on the periphery of the ancient heaven spirit tree was distracted for a moment and was accidentally entangled by the attack of a skeleton. Then, with a bang, he was dragged out of the area covered by the ancient heaven spirit tree. In just an instant, his body was eroded into white bones. He didn't even have time to scream before he was transformed into a walking corpse. Then, those white bones rushed in the direction of the crowd with a greenish-black face. The blood-colored immortal jade bones on his body did not have any effect on the liquefied black fog. Everyone looked on and could not help but feel a burst of fear in their hearts. Their bodies also trembled fiercely. Miss Luo. Some of the sect disciples with weaker mental fortitude almost couldn't help but kneel on the ground. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong and could not help but shout loudly. A group of people from a sect still had to rely on a 15 or 16-year-old girl. If word of this spread, no one would believe it. But now, it had really happened. Not only that, everyone saw Luo Qingtong as their only savior. If there was really someone who could lead them out of here, it would definitely be Luo Qingtong. Everyone regretted it now. If they had known that the girl was so powerful and extraordinary, why would they have gone against her in the first place? If they had stood on her side with the people from the Sky Yuan sect, they would not have to worry and be afraid. After all, Luo Qingtong was a person who valued kindness and friendship. Her methods were ruthless, but she did not lose her principles. As her enemy, it was naturally the most painful and terrible thing in this world. However, being her friend and companion was the happiest thing in the world. Because as long as it was within the girl's power, she would protect you better than anyone else. At this moment, Su Yu and the others were beside Luo Qingtong. Then, it was the people from the Sky Yuan sect. Finally, it was the turn of the people from the sects who had sworn loyalty to them. Chapter 2201. Their hearts were filled with fear and trepidation. At the same time, they felt a deep sense of regret. As they spoke, Luo Qingtong turned around and noticed the rolling black fog. Bang! Her gaze froze. Seeing that the black fog was about to invade the 3 inches of light around the ancient heavenly spirit tree, Luo Qingtong threw out a pile of immortal jade bones. Throw out all the immortal jade bones in your hands, Luo Qingtong said in a low voice. She had a limited number of immortal jade bones that hadn't been purified yet. Once the ancient heavenly spirit tree couldn't withstand the black fog, Luo Qingtong would be the first to abandon them, just as the other sects thought. After all, she had to shrink the ancient heavenly spirit tree and concentrate its energy if she wanted to protect Su Yu and the others. Luo Qingtong didn't know what all life was equal or that life was priceless. She only knew that the lives of the people around her were more valuable than anyone else's. Yes. When the people from the various sects heard this, they immediately threw out the immortal jade bones in their hands. They were afraid that if they threw them out any later, the ancient heavenly spirit tree wouldn't be able to withstand the black fog. At that time, all of them would die. Everyone threw out all the immortal jade bones in their hands. In order to enter the land of the fallen immortals, these sects naturally had a lot of immortal jade bones in their hands. They weren't like Luo Qingtong and the others, who could refine and purify immortal jade bones. Therefore, at Luo Qingtong's command, the immortal jade bones flew toward the ancient heavenly spirit tree in the sky like scattered petals. The latter received the nourishment of the death energy contained in the immortal jade bones and instantly emitted beams of clear light from its canopy. It forced out the black fog that was about to invade its canopy. At the same time, the giant human face rushed to the front of the ancient heavenly spirit tree. Roar! The giant face opened its mouth wide. Countless faces twisted their expressions and screeched sharply, biting toward Luo Qingtong and the others. Buzz! The radiance of the ancient heavenly spirit wood, which had been strengthened by the death energy of the immortal jade bones, was gradually suppressed. Seeing this, Luo Qingtong frowned. As for the people from the sects on the periphery, they had already begun their attack. Boom boom boom. Their attacks landed on the giant face that was rushing towards them. Countless human faces were shattered and reformed by their attacks, but they were not damaged at all. These human faces were all manifestations of the consciousness of the extraterrestrial experts. Ordinary attacks were useless against them. Only attacks that contained mental power were useful. However, how many people from the various sects could launch such an attack? Even if they could, how many people would be able to hurt them? The huge face whizzed over, and under everyone's horrified gazes, it suddenly opened its mouth wide and bit towards them. It was going to devour them along with the ancient heavenly spiritual wood. Countless faces twisted and shrieked, waiting to capture Luo Qingtong and the others in one fell swoop. Seeing this, many people from the various sects were so frightened that their legs went weak and they fell to the ground. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's figure suddenly leaped out from among them. Swoosh! Chapter 2202. Get down. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, the life and death sword in her hand vibrated. With a clang, the black and white long sword in Luo Qingtong's hand suddenly split into two. Annihilation. The life blade and the death blade were held in her hands at the same time. These two swords represented the power of life and the power of death at the same time. Regardless of whether it was the exuberant power of life or the most evil power of death in the world, they were both the nemesis of the Yin souls in this world. Especially the power of death. The Yin souls could still resist the power of life by relying on their own death aura. However, the power of death was of the same origin as them and was of a much higher level than their own aura. There was almost no way to resist the power of this sword. At this moment, Luo Qingtong transformed the life and death sword into two long swords and held them in her hands at the same time. The bloody light in her eyes flickered violently at this moment. Then, she raised her hands and swung the swords. Boom! Two rays of annihilation suddenly blasted out from her hands. They intertwined with each other and turned into two rays of light of the two extremes of yin and yang, rushing forward wildly. The light of annihilation blasted out by Luo Qingtong could originally transform other forces for her own use. Now, the two long swords in her hands swung out a ray of light at the same time. The two rays of light annihilated each other and transformed into the shape of the 8 trigrams of yin and yang at the same time, rushing forward violently. Even though the thought bodies formed by these extraterrestrial experts were extremely powerful and were almost unafraid of any soul attacks, they still couldn't help but tremble when they saw the rays blasted out by Luo Qingtong. Boom! Luo Qingtong's two rays of light almost brushed past the scalps of the people lying on the ground in front of her and flew towards the huge face. At this moment, the latter was opening its mouth wide, waiting to devour Luo Qingtong and the others along with the ancient heavenly spiritual wood. When it saw Luo Qingtong's two rays of light flying towards it, its heart trembled, but it was already too late to move. Boom! Luo Qingtong's two rays of light directly blasted into the huge face's wide-open mouth. Bang! The mouth of the huge face suddenly burst open. The countless human faces that made up the huge mouth howled miserably as they turned into ashes in front of everyone. In front of everyone's eyes, half of the huge face was directly blasted apart, leaving only the upper half of the face above the mouth. It's the power of life and death. The human faces that made up the giant face screamed in terror, making shrill sounds that only they could understand. They looked at the two black and white swords in Luo Qingtong's hands with shock and fear. Their hearts were filled with unspeakable fear. The other party actually had such a heaven-defying artifact in his hands. Although the consciousness bodies of these extraterrestrial experts were formed purely from their consciousness, they didn't have a physical body. They were the lingering wills of all the foreign experts who died in the land of the fallen immortals. They were the embodiment of all the death chi and hostility in the land. But they were still ghosts after all. Under the attack of Luo Qingtong's life and death two right swords, they couldn't even escape and turned into ashes. If not for the fact that their bodies were large enough, the attack just now would have been enough to kill them completely. Buzz. Chapter 2203. The land of the deceased immortals existed because of these human faces. The black fog was created by them. Now that almost half of those human faces had been killed by Luo Qingtong, the aura in the land of the deceased immortals had naturally dissipated. At this moment, the Star Alliance Temple Master and the others, who were rushing toward the Forbidden Zone, felt the change in the aura around them, and their expressions changed slightly. The collective consciousness of those strong extraterrestrials has been injured. The Star Alliance Temple Master's face was filled with fanaticism. The power of the Sector Beast was actually so strong. The Star Alliance Temple Master didn't know that the attack was launched by Luo Qingtong. He thought that the person who had contracted the Sector Beast had obtained the Sector Beast and released it with its help. His heart was filled with excitement. The collective consciousness of those strong extraterrestrials was completely connected to the land of the deceased immortals. It could be said that as long as the land of the deceased immortals was not destroyed, the collective consciousness of those strong extraterrestrials would not be destroyed. The Star Alliance Temple Master had come prepared this time, so he naturally knew how to deal with the collective consciousness of those strong extraterrestrials. However, the people from the sects in the land of the deceased immortals didn't have the strength or ability to deal with the collective consciousness of those strong extraterrestrials. It must be that Sector Beast. Ha ha ha. Good, good, good. The Star Alliance Temple Master said good 3 times in a row. That Sector Beast was indeed extraordinary to be able to severely injure the collective consciousness of those strong extraterrestrials. He laughed loudly and continued to rush toward the Forbidden Zone with the people around him. He couldn't wait any longer. Yi Qianxian and the others, who had originally been behind them, had already quietly passed by them. At this moment, after sensing the change in the aura of the land of the deceased immortals, they suddenly stopped. Master, it's the evil doctor. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others were excited. They could feel the power of the heaven-conquering art that Luo Qingtong had used. That was a move that Yi Qianxian had created. In this world, only Yi Qianxian could use it. Of course, Luo Qingtong was added to the list. The evil doctor was actually fine. Not only that, but he had also injured the manifestation of those extraterrestrial experts' wills. Everyone was astonished to the extreme. Although they weren't afraid of the huge faces formed by the consciousness of these foreign powerhouses, it wouldn't be easy to deal with them. After all, he had the entire land of the fallen immortals to rely on. Unless they destroyed this place, they might not be able to do what the evil doctor did if they attacked directly without unleashing their full strength. But how strong was the evil doctor when he entered the immortal graveyard? Saint Emperor stage. Right now, he was only at the Holy Venerable Realm. After all, they didn't sense the aura of an exalted realm breakthrough. But the level of the true Spill Continent was too low, it was impossible to break through to the exalted realm. In other words, the evil doctor was able to injure the enormous human face with a strength below the exalt realm. Everyone was speechless as they thought about it. Oh my God, that's all they can do. Should they say, as expected of the person that Master had taken a fancy to? The more Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others came into contact with Luo Qingtong, the more they admired Yi Qianxian's foresight. When Master first met the evil doctor, the girl was only at the Martial General realm. Or was she at the Martial Master realm? At that time, the evil doctor was like an ant that they could kill with a puff of air. But Master had a discerning eye. He had taken a fancy to the evil doctor at first glance. After pursuing her several times, he had resolutely refused to let her go. Now, every time the evil doctor grew, it proved what he had said back then: the girl was a pearl in the sea, lost to the world. Chapter 2204. Bang! In the center of the restricted area, Luo Qingtong's figure landed, but her expression was not so relaxed. The annihilation technique that Yi Qianxian had taught her was no longer as powerful as when she had been weak when she had advanced to the Holy Venerate realm. Otherwise, based on the strength she had been able to display before, this attack, coupled with the dual transformations of the life and death yin-yang swords, would have been enough to severely injure that huge face to the point where it could no longer transform. Now, she had only injured half of its face. After all, this move had the advantage of catching them off guard. Once the consciousnesses of these xenorace experts gathered and knew that she possessed such a divine weapon that could injure them, then the attacks that came down wouldn't be so easily effective. Sure enough, after Luo Qingtong had killed a small portion of their transformations, the extraterrestrial experts' consciousnesses did not dare to be careless anymore. Their gazes towards Luo Qingtong were filled with fear and apprehension. Even so, they were unwilling to let go of the little ball in her arms. They had waited so long for that sector beast, from when it was alive to after its death, just to obtain it. Especially since they were just a collection of consciousnesses. Once they obtained that sector beast, they could use the aura of the origin of laws on it to reconstruct their bodies. Even if they turned into a ghost body, it was still better than being imprisoned in the land of the deceased immortals with their consciousnesses lingering. Therefore, although the extraterrestrial experts' consciousnesses were very afraid of Luo Qingtong, they were still unwilling to leave. They surrounded Luo Qingtong and the others, circling around the entire ancient heaven spirit tree, constantly whistling and spiraling. When Luo Qingtong's attack blasted over, they immediately scattered in all directions. Then, they immediately gathered again. Under its interference, the energy that the ancient heaven spirit tree had replenished from the immortal jade bones was constantly being depleted. If this went on, the ancient heaven spirit tree would not have enough power to resist the invasion of the surrounding black gas. At that time, Su Yu and the others would not be able to withstand the onslaught of the black mist. Even if it was Luo Qingtong, under the attack of the black fog, the strength of her attack would definitely be greatly affected. At that time, there would be an opportunity to take advantage of the gathering of the foreign experts' wills. Luo Qingtong thought and made a prompt decision: let's go. As she spoke, she leaped forward and placed a finger on her forehead. In my name, release the seal. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Little Pig's arrogant voice followed suit. Let's see how your Grandpa Pig will deal with you. Little Pig couldn't hold himself back any longer. However, Luo Qingtong knew that it could only be unsealed once in a short period of time. Naturally, she couldn't use it easily. It just had to hold it in. Now, it was finally Grandpa Pig's turn. Boom! Little Pig's body suddenly emitted a burst of light that enveloped its chubby and plump body. Under such circumstances, its body abruptly dashed forward. Roar! Between the heavens and the earth, a boundless roar that seemed to resound throughout the world, the ancient plains, and the endless years of desolation. In the next second, a huge claw covered in scales abruptly extended from mid-air. With a boom, the huge human face was heavily pressed into the ground. At this moment, Chapter 2205. Those distorted faces violently surged and dissipated. Just like how it dealt with Luo Qingtong's sword light, when the claw pressed down on them, they quickly dissipated and gathered again in the air. However, no matter how they twisted and struggled, the huge claw still caught them. There seemed to be a strange power within the claw. Even the illusory bodies of these foreign experts couldn't escape from it. These distorted faces were mixed with their aggregates, and they were ruthlessly suppressed to the ground by Little Pig's true body. Rumble. An incomparably violent wave of dirt rose up in the sky. At the same time, Luo Qingtong's figure flew up in an instant. Attack! Annihilation! Following Luo Qingtong's clear shout, the Heavenly Yuan sect and the other sect's members who were shocked to the extreme by Little Pig's attack immediately regained their senses. They attacked together with Luo Qingtong, Su Yu, and the others. They were overwhelmed with shock. It turned out that Luo Qingtong hadn't used her full strength before. Beast Tamer King Gu Guzhu's death wasn't unjust. If he hadn't taken advantage of the fact that Luo Qingtong's contracted light ball couldn't move and that Little Pig couldn't charge into Luo Qingtong's light pillar, he wouldn't even know how he died. Everyone was shocked, but at the same time, they were extremely excited. Now that they were all Luo Qingtong's people, the stronger the girl's strength, the better it was for them. Everyone cheered indescribably in their hearts as they thought of this. Those who had previously submitted to Luo Qingtong were even more glad that they didn't take the wrong path at that time. Otherwise, how would they be able to survive now? Everyone's attacks violently blasted forward. In front of them, there were densely packed white bones. The white bones in the center of the forbidden area were gathered by the foreign experts' wills, blocking the path in front of Luo Qingtong and the others to prevent them from leaving. And at this moment, under the attacks of Luo Qingtong and the others, those white bones exploded into pieces one after another. Luo Qingtong's figure swept up in an instant. With a wave of her sleeve, she fiercely swept up Little Pig, who had fallen from the air, and then led everyone to the center of the forbidden area. As long as they left the forbidden area, the foreign experts' wills wouldn't be able to do anything to them. After all, although the foreign experts' wills were incomparably powerful, they relied on the aura of the fallen immortal land to live. It was almost equivalent to being bound in this forbidden area. Once Luo Qingtong and the others left, they would no longer be able to catch up. And when Luo Qingtong and the others' figures swept forward, those distorted human faces rose up from where Little Pig had pressed them down. Their power dissipated from the huge pit underground, forming a huge human face in the air. Compared to before, this huge human face's figure had shrunk by almost half. At this moment, its mouth was wide open, and its eyes were filled with resentment and ruthlessness as it looked in the direction Luo Qingtong and the others left. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.